What is up, everybody? Mystar here to show you how to become a Mystar of your reality on a day-to-day basis. And today, I wanted to show you guys another Freestyle Tarot energy pull. Alright, so if you've seen the last video of Freestyle energy pull, you already know. And if you don't, today I'm going to be breaking down a tarot card or two, depending if another one comes out. But I'd like to stick to one, but though two is no issue, because usually they'll correlate anyway. And this card is going to be the energy that I'll be breaking down. I'm going to break down the ins, the outs, the rounds, the lefts, the rights, the forwards, the backs, all the things. And I'm just going to be breaking down the energy. Why is the tarot card even spoken of like that? Like, so if anyone maybe likes to learn about tarot, wants to learn a little bit more in depth about the details of tarot, I'm going to be breaking down those kind of things, like the numerology behind it, why the numerology may tie into the element and the modality. Well, not the modality, we're talking about astrology when we get into modalities. Why the numerology might correlate to the element and the pictures as well, and how these will all tie in together to put together the full picture of what the card may mean. So then, you'll be able to develop like more broader ways of interpreting and developing a better understanding of how to actually read the cards and why the actual cards are even built like that. So low key, like if you are able to carry on and utilize this knowledge in your own way, which is to say, like, once you walk away from videos, like a few videos of watching mine, or maybe even one video, you might develop a better sense of how to actually interpret these things for yourself. All right. So that's one of my main aims. But at the end of the day, take it with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, we're all at our own levels. I don't want people to pressure themselves but if you are dedicated and willing, that's also a personal boost you can give to yourself. All right. Don't know why I'm using certain words, but they just come out, they flow sometimes. So us let them, like you got to let them sometimes, like depending on the individual space that you're in. So I'm outside as a change, I wanted to talk about like being outside as like a kind of foundational energy, because I wanted to lay down the roots, the groundwork, and I think that's a good basis of how I can talk about this video in general. We're laying down we're laying down the roots, the groundwork of how to interpret and read certain signs and symbols, okay? That's my aim for these kind of videos. So as I go deeper into the meaning of the card, you'll start to see the interrelated sides, how they actually correlate, and why there's certain meanings to certain concepts, and why people even read things in certain ways, because there's a meaning, there's a reasoning, there's a purpose. All right. And me as a Sagittarius moon, we love to get to the meanings and the roots of things. All right. So we like to figure out why something is the way it is, what's the reasoning behind that concept, right? And then I'm a Taurus sun with a cast one Gemini. So I be about making sense out of shit. I don't be about like willy nilly just talking smack out of my booty hole. No, I be about like speaking facts. I'm about, you know, being in that truthful energy, but also making it expressed, my sun, expression in a Taurus kind of way, in a practical kind of way, in a way that makes sense. All right. So it's like the meaning and the reasoning, and then making sense out of that meaning and reasoning, right? Or like, then you add the flavor of the Gemini. So it's like making sense out of many different meanings and reasonings, many different ways of thinking about meaning and reasoning, and making sense out of meaning and reasonings. So yeah, that's a little breakdown of my sun and my moon. So yeah, that's what I just scratched myself. Yeah, so once we get into that, we'll be able to pull our card. Now, any messages of what the energy today is going to be? What kind of energy? That's 4 cards that dropped out. No love. 5 of Wands energy. Okay. You know what I was thinking as well? Like, I'd prefer to break down a major arcana. So we'll keep the Five of Wands as like a little side thing, but I'd prefer a major arcana. Give us a major arcana, major arcana. I don't know, whatever it is, love. We have the Devil, the Devil, and then we'll get the Five of Swords again because I just put that away, but that was the card that came up before. I think major arcana is very important because these are like major energies. They're not minor energies like the minor arcana. You know what I mean? Guess that's also another way of breaking things down. They have minor meanings for the minor arcana, right? Major meanings, major energies for the major arcana. So once you look at it from that perspective, that already gives you another way to read or look at the thing, which a lot of people would know. A lot of people would know that. Anyways, I can't find the five of I don't know the meaning, so it doesn't really matter. Oh, actually, no. Now that I just thought about it, it does really matter because I'm breaking down astrology, the astrology, the signs and symbols behind that. So when we're talking about the card, you want to be able to see it, don't you? I do think so. I do think so, love. So let's find her. Let's find her. There we are. So let's go, bull. We shall go ahead with this. Wow, another card was there. We don't want you. Sorry, I was restricting it to two cards. We don't want to get the energies all muddled and huddled and cruddled, alright? But it tells a story in its own once you bring them together anyway, so it's not too muddled. But here we have the Devil and the Five of Wands, okay? So we have the Five of Wands. Reason why I also wanted to keep the Five of Wands as well is because it is actually very relevant. It's actually very valid when talking about the Devil card. It's actually very, very valid in terms of like correlating these meanings together because the Five of Wands talks about working at cross purposes or like kind of like it's like going in against the grain. As you can see, this card, he's kind of going against all these foxes, going against. And foxes, animals, usually represent our animalistic natures, our lower desires. So our animalistic natures is basically is a desire in general. So in order to even have desire, that's an animalistic state of being. And when you're in a state of desire, you're in your animalistic natures, you're in your animalistic energies, right? But when you are able to lighten that desire, that's like a form of you carrying all your animals, all your male and female animals, like Noah's Ark type shit, and you're carrying them on a boat for them to float above water. And water is emotions. Water is like a container. It holds things, right? It's related to the energy of feminine and receptive kind of energies, emotions holding onto things. You know, that's why water holds its shape. It carries the physical characteristics of holding its shape within the earth. So that is the spiritual characteristic as well. Sorry about this freaking piece of hair, guys, because I already know I would be watching myself like that freaking piece of hair. Like, mate, get get it get it under wraps. That's my thoughts. That's how I would be. So don't feel mean if you're judging me and you're sitting there like that freaking piece of hair. Because I don't blame you, love. I don't blame ya. Look at that motherfucking receding hairline looking ass. Anyways, enough roasting me, enough roasting me. Oh well. Sorry guys. The cards keep blowing away. I don't want them to blow too far away because then I'll have to pick up the pace later on. I'd rather deal with it here and now. Here and now. You heard? No, I'm not American. That's cultural appropriation. No. Okay, so hopefully that piece of hair doesn't freaking annoy the holy. So when we're talking about the Five of Wands and the animalistic natures, right? This is you bringing your animals above water, above your emotions. You're no longer holding on to your desires. This is what the Noah's Ark allegory is actually about. You're no longer holding on to your desires, your lower animalistic energies, and now you're rising above and you're taking them. You're still like able to have those desires when you're able to bring them into a lighter state, but they're not weighing you down anymore. They're not keeping you into your emotions. They're not making things heavy anymore. Okay. You know what? I think will be good. That might work. Improvisation, because I'm not about to stop this video just for fucking piece of hair. So, when we're talking about the devil card, this is tying into the devil card because I wanted to do a little bit of a loopity loop. Anyways, the devil card talks about your animalistic desires as well, but it's talking about restricting your animalistic desires. The devil is really a representation of your animalistic desires in like kind of a unified way of explaining it, because these things, you, in order to lighten the load of your animalistic desires, it causes you or needs you to have a form of restriction for yourself. So when you give into your animalistic desires, when you give into these lower animalistic energies, this will lead you to more heavier states of being where you just want more and more out of that desire. If you constantly giving into that desire or feeding into that desire energy in itself. So, like, let's say you really, really desire to have something, but you're not able to have it due to whatever circumstance that you may be in. This is a way of, you being trapped into that cycle because you're constantly fuming and pushing out that energy of desire. So, what are you going to bring back? Whatever you put out is what you get back. So, when you fume and push out that energy of desire, this is going to cause you to manifest more desire, bring and receive more desire energies. So, being mindful of that, this is why the devil card represents a form of your desires or getting lost into your desires, because it's like the devil is coming out to play. You're being controlled by this lower animalistic version of yourself, which arguably the devil itself is based on your lower animalistic natures. So the concept of that is like someone who is lost into their lower animalistic desires, or demons in general. This whole concept is, that's why they have animalistic features and stuff like that, because they're really just a depiction of a person who is more in their lower animalistic natures as a character. Because you don't walk around the world, you don't see people with horns, you don't see people with red skin, right? Actually, no. Let me just rephrase that. You don't see people with horns and like tails and shit like that, unless like maybe they have like they just naturally got that birth defect. But like, then you would know, oh, that person just has like a birth defect, or that person just happened to, like whatever the case may be for that individual person. But you don't go around saying that person's a demon just because they have horns. And if you do, um what's it called, if you look at life, that's always going to show you the facts. That's always going to show you the truth. The proof is in the pudding, right? So if there's no demons and no devils in the pudding, then that shows you that it's based on something else. So you got to find, where is the pudding, or what has the pudding within it, or what has that within its pudding. So then I look at, okay, what areas of life might that have that? And the only area you can look at is characteristics. If you're looking at someone's characteristics, you look at whether or not they're animalistic. If they're in their animalistic desires, okay, well then you're reading their character and you're able to look at them and say, oh, well, that person is more in their demonic natures. Okay, so this is where these concepts actually come from. If you can't find a basis on where the pudding is at, and if it holds that within its pudding, like this situation, then the only way to explain demons and devils is either from your imagination, which again, that's arguably just your mind, which is based on your character and your personality, your persona, the way that you think and the way that you feel. So these things are all correlated, which is why this is kind of only something you can even see in your mind, because it's literally a representation of something that's from the mind, a characteristic that's in the mind. So when we're talking about your animalistic natures, your demonic energies, this is something that a character that someone plays out. It's not an actual like being or a species of beings, you know, unless you're talking about characters being a species of beings, in which case, that's a little bit more on the right track, but in itself, it's not a whole different separate species of being. You can fall into your demonic natures and you can rise up to your angelic natures. You can be a more angelic state, which is really just seeing something from a higher perspective, flying above it or floating above it, like the Noah's Ark story that I was just breaking down. Or you can fall into it, which is you going into that demonic nature, going into that devilish aspect of yourself. So it's literally just like aspects of yourself internally. This is why in the shows they always talk about the angel and the demon on the shoulders, the two shoulders. This is like the Masons, whoever made the show or whatever spiritual practice they may be in. They're trying to display to you. They're trying to show you these aspects are within you. They're not an actual external thing. It's something that you hold within you, two different energies, two different sides of yourself, your lower animalistic nature and your higher natures, which is your demons, your angels. Like these are the same kind of thing, So don't get it mixed up. Don't get it twisted, boo boo. Don't get it switched up in your brain and then get lost into someone else's imagination what they think the characteristics look like. You don't have to look at it as demons and angels. It could have been a coulda and a coulda, it could have been a woulda and a shoulda. Like it could have been a anything. Like the point is that these are made up, man-made concepts based on someone else's perspective, subjective point of view, based on their objective way of viewing, based on what objectively they're experiencing in reality. So if they're constantly experiencing realities of meeting demons and blah blah blah, so on and so forth, talking about that in the Bible, what do you think kind of mind state they were in? But that's another story. That's another video, I would say. But the point is, these are mind states, these are characters, these are aspects of yourself internally. If you don't see it in life, then it ain't true. And it's not to say that even these characters are not true. Like they have some truth and basis to them, but they're still from a subjective point of view. Always remember, it's always subjective first, then objective. And if you freaking see that, then you'll be able to see life a lot clearer. You won't get lost into the objective part because you'll know, okay, well, everything's subjective first, then objective. So I won't be looking at things like, oh, well, looking at it like, oh, well, this objective thing is like this. And then let me try to figure out a way to relate it to what's going on subjectively. It's actually, no, this subjective thing is like this. So let me correlate everything in my external to how that is, because it's always subjective then objective. Even if you're looking at the overall subjective, which is arguably an objective way of looking at the subjective, but that's still subjective. This is why we all experience our own worlds internally, and then we go out into the world and we experience something on our own externally, because it's always about that objective, then that subjective, then that objective, sorry. So yeah, when you look at things for how they are in life, you'll be able to correlate them a lot better. And when you see, the devil card, this is not about demons, this is not about Satan, which that arguably is just another way of explaining what I was just explaining. When you're going against your higher natures, you're going into your devil energy, you're going into your animalistic natures, your demonic energies. So this is why as well the Five of Wands came out, because it's talking about being at a crossroads, being at conflict with yourself, going against the grain of your own state of being, which arguably, it's good to utilize both of these energies because they're a part of you. And this is why it's not important. It's important not to demonize one side or the other. It's always about balance. It's always looking at both sides. How can they all benefit? How can you benefit from both sides of the picture? Because without knowing that you have demonic or lower animalistic natures, right, you wouldn't know how important it is to rise above those things and use your angelic energy, right? And same with your angelic energy. Without knowing that you could rise above something, you wouldn't know how important it is for you to delve into something or to go down into something. You know what I mean? So these are necessary parts of life. It's not about demonizing one or the other, which is, that's like a whole concept, like demonizing. It's just based on like that whole concept of people, once again, demonizing that aspect of themselves, thinking that it's all bad and all good. But really, you can utilize these things, but it's about knowing how to balance and not fall into these things. Don't fall into your animalistic natures. Don't fall into your angelic natures, because then you're lost in something. And when you're inside of something, that's all you can see. You look out, and that's all you can see is whatever you're inside of. Like we're inside of a world, you can only see the world outside of you that you're in, right? So this is why it's important to not get lost into something, regardless of what it is, regardless of what energy it is. And this is why it's important to have the devil card. Boundaries and restrictions. Restrict yourself in certain areas. Give yourself certain boundaries with yourself. Give yourself some discipline. These are all related to the devil card. And this is why discipline is also related to that demon, discipline, devil, desire. This is why they all start with D, guys. Come on, get with it. All right. The more you freaking start to like correlate these things, but at the end of the day, I'm not freaking trying to tell you anything, because if you don't believe in this shit, I don't care. Really, I could care less. But this is for the people who actually know what the fuck is going on. 1 second. Yeah, this is for the people who actually know what the fuck is going on, actually want to learn about the true shit, actually want to base their shit on facts, and want to learn more about this stuff. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine. We're each to their own. I'm not here to tell you shit. Like I just said, I don't give a shit if you care or not. It's really just for those who actually want to learn about this. And a lot of people don't view my videos, but I also know that in the future the right people will come. So that's why I like to do these videos too. One of them, I've got many reasons on why I like to do videos, but regardless, talking about the devil card again, it's about restricting yourself, you know, bringing boundaries within yourself, locking up that aspect of yourself that's lost into that desire, which is why this picture here, this person's kind of curled up into a ball, right? This ball is like a ball of desire. It represents a ball of desire. So, like for example, when you have like a ball, this is like almost a container, right? It's representing that water kind of energy again. So when you're curled up in a ball, what do you think you're going to be in? You're in some kind of emotional energy, right? Because you're emulating, you're acting in the character of the water kind of energy, right? You're containing something, you're holding on to something, you know? So this is like when you're holding on to these things, sometimes you need to restrict yourself from holding on to that certain concept, that aspect of yourself. Sometimes you need to restrict yourself and give some discipline to your ability to hold back from certain things and not delve into it so much, or constantly go within it and be stuck in that desire, stuck in that energy, in all of that kind of shields. So when it comes to what's it called? Your desires, like even people could desire lots of things, but like if it's weighing you down and it's keeping you heavy and it's making things hard and harsh for you, then this is the sign that you're lost in a desire, rather than just using your desires to get what is needed, what is wanted out of life, right? Your desires are using you at that point, because you are constantly allowing your desires to lead you to places where logically that you shouldn't go. And logic is more tied to like that angelic energy, because it's not based in your emotions, it's not based on how you feel or desire to feel or desire to be in. It's all related to logic, is more related to what is logically what logically makes sense, what is like strategy kind of energies, like learning kind of energies. What did you learn from the situation? um what maybe you need to let go, like all these kind of L energies, like but also like you can get lost in an L too. Like you can get lost into the light, which is also another form of a desire. Actually, it really low key is kind of the same. Because like when you're lost in a fire, you're lost in a desire. You're within the fire. That fiery energy, passion, desire, determination to go and achieve what you want to achieve. Not saying these things are bad as well. Always remember the equilibrium, loves. So if you're thinking that, oh my gosh, I shouldn't ever be determined, I shouldn't be passionate. No, love, that's not the case. It's about being mindful of how far you're going into that energy, and when you need to pull yourself back, jump into another energy. And this is what balance is about, utilizing one, then you jump to the other, then you jump back to the other, then you jump back to the other. But it's not getting stuck into one or the other. That's when you're in that desire, because you desire to constantly contain and maintain and hold, back to that water energy, hold on to that experience, hold on to that state of being, hold all that shit. And then once you realize, like, no, I need some boundaries and restrictions to myself. Instead of holding on to stuff, I need to restrict myself from this, let go of this. And this will allow you to actually see it from the outside looking in, because you're no longer within it, holding onto it. You're no longer in that water, in that fire, which are two sides of the same coin. Water and fire is just um emotional, more emotional based elements, but they're the masculine and the feminine. So feminine is water, masculine is fire, more fire based, or right and left, whichever way you look at it. But they're two sides of the same coin. They're both emotional kind of energies. Logic and practicality, earth and air. Those are more, you know, um, logical, practical based energies. They're not so based into the emotion. They're more structured. Air is maybe not so structured, but air is how do I say? Air is everywhere, first of all, and what's it called? Earth is more structured and makes sense out of. Air is lighter, but it's still, you're able to pick up on something based on the air that it gives off. You know what I mean? The air, the aspect, and the air of um air things out when you're able to talk about things, like communicate and go towards something, express and externalize. So these are kind of like more correlated to structure kind of energies, logical and practical. Anyways, back into the emotional energies. We're talking about fire, we're talking about desire, we're talking about water, talking about your daughter, and yeah, these kind of energies that you can get lost into. All right, so the devil is also related to Capricorn energy, right? And Capricorn energy is ruled by Saturn, which Saturn is about cycles and also separation. So when you separate from a certain cycle, once you end the cycle, you separate from that, right? So when we're talking about the devil, this is another form of, that boundary and that restriction, also related to Saturn energies too, boundaries and restriction. So when you're able to separate something from something, you're putting a boundary up or a restriction for you to not go towards that thing anymore, right? So this is why it ties into the astrology of Saturn and all that kind of stuff. They build these cards off the same concepts. They build astrology off the similar concepts. It's just a template for you to understand the system of energy that they're trying to observe and put names to. But the name doesn't really matter. That the energy is what matters. What's behind the things? What's the meaning and the reasoning behind it? The name is just a way of talking about it, of expressing it, and bringing it out into the external, which is more masculine based, right? The energy and behind it, the meaning and reasoning, that's more about like what it means to you. What's the reasoning behind it for you? You know, how do you receive that? Like the feminine kind of energy of it, right? So these are how you can correlate and fixate your mind onto certain concepts and be able to interpret certain things based on those templates that I just talked about. So yeah, freaking what's it called? When we're getting into the Capricorn kind of energy again, I wanted to talk more about that. Oh, actually, no. Yeah, yes and no. The Capricorn energy again is talking more about your status, your career, what you're known for, what you've built for yourself, right? So when you are, what's it called? when you are looking at it like that, you can kind of see, okay, well, if you're going through a cycle, right, that's like a circle that holds and contains things. So that's more tied to the feminine energy. And whether or not you can utilize that for benefit or for detriment for yourself, that depends on the individual, right? But cycles are not good or bad. It just depends how you use them. Are you lost into a cycle, like I was just saying before? Are you stuck in something? Are you lost in the fire, like lost in the desire? Or are you able to create a new cycle? Are you able to give birth to new cycles, aka restricting yourself from the old cycle that you were just in, and then creating a discipline based on the new cycle that you want to create, which will ultimately become what you are known for, your status, and can become your career if you um, choose that to be so. Okay. And then we're talking about here with the X and the V. So X and V. X, I'm pretty sure, is 10, right? V is like, what, 5? I'm pretty sure in Roman numerals, if I'm not mistaken. So X is 10. So when we're talking about 10 and 5, obviously that makes 15, right? So when we're talking about the number 15, that's having an individual idea, number one, and then that's having 5, a vision or based on that idea, or um, um, something to express, and emanate, which is like a vision as well. You express a vision within your mind, even though it's not maybe not be expressed externally. You're having a vision, you're expressing something within your own mind, you're creating a fire within your own mind, right? So when it comes to having an individual idea about a vision or something you express, like an imagination or a creative vision, then this is talking about what's it called? Something that you're paying attention to. So depending on what that vision is, would depend on where that vision will take you, right? So if you have an individual idea or vision about a vision, that is maybe this vision is more based on lack energies. You have a vision of something that you constantly want, but you're stuck in that state of not having it and feeling like you don't have it and getting lost into that energy of itself. Then this is going to lead you to more states of desire, right? And create more cycles for you to um, be in that energy. Whereas if you have an individual idea about a vision which is maybe lighter, it's a creative vision, something that gives you drive, something that gives you motivation, passion, then you'll be able to fixate on something that actually helps to create a better cycle for you and may actually help you to pull yourself out of your desires. So this is why it's also important to not bias yourself, put yourself into a bias of one energy or the other, because then you'll be using the same energy that you're lost into a bias of, thinking that you're using a different energy to separate out of that desire, but really you're using a similar energy which is based on that concept or meaning and reasoning in the first place, right? I don't feel like I need to explain anymore. Kind of wanted to explain, but like, no, if you're going to get it, you're going to get it. Those who will get it will get it. So when we're talking about 1 and 5 again, you can add these numbers together and it creates 6. And 6 is like the joining together of two energies. When you have two energies come together, that's like sex energy, right? Or really it's just a joining of two energies. It's not talking about like physical sex. It's talking about two different energies coming together to create a new one, which is when you're able to give birth to something or pay attention to something. Your awareness is what is the kind of your ability to give birth to something. So when you're aware of something, this is why you start to see it more in your reality, because you're giving birth to that awareness, that state of mind, that mentality for yourself to emanate it out into the world, right? And then that's how you can correlate things in a lot um, more better way, because now you know what you're doing. You're like, okay, well, I'm giving birth to something. The more I'm giving awareness to it, I'm like creating that reality for myself, that mentality. Okay, so this is why 6 talks about what you pay attention to, you know, what you put your thoughts and feelings into. Because 4 and 5 is like your thoughts and feelings. 4 is like your thoughts about the space that you're in, and then 5 is how you feel about that. And then 6 is when you join these two energies together, the 4 and the 5, then it gives you 6, and you're able to um, put your thoughts and feelings towards a certain goal, towards a certain aspect. So depending on how you utilize these will lead you to a certain path. It might lead you into your desires, like I was talking about before, or it might lead you into a more lighter version where you're able to like still have your desires, but you're not letting them weigh you down. You're able to lighten your load and be free. Right? There's a bird over there. Keeps coming over to. Oh no, he went away. Yeah, that bird kept coming over. It's like he wanted to learn. He wanted to learn. You know, when an animal becoming, that's like a sign, especially birds. That's like a big sign up because birds are like they are able to fly. They're able to see things from above. You know that kind of those kind of energies. So it's like kind of what that's why people say as well, like that birds watch over people. They watch over you as like guardians and so on and so forth because they're like literally physically they literally fly above you, right? They fly over you. So these are where these energies come from, and it's always subjective then objective, from within and then going external. So this is how they come to the basis of breaking down these energies and talking about these things, because a lot of people will say, oh yeah, birds are a representation of like your guides and stuff, or being like watched over, and like soul family kind of vibe, your soul family watching over you. But then people don't really know the meaning and reasoning to why, which goes back into my Sagittarius moon, the way I react and respond to things. I want to know the meaning and reasoning to things, you know what I mean? And then I express it and act on it with my Taurus sun in a practical way, in a way that makes sense, but also in a way where I'm trying to act, like acknowledge every aspect with the Gemini being mutable and adaptable to the way people think and communicate, myself and others. So yeah, back to the cards. Now, let's not get too distracted, mate. So when we are talking about these energies, this is how you can correlate them and break them down, right, guys? And then also I wanted to break down the actual Roman symbolism because that even has a deeper meaning, mate. Deeper. So this is how you know as well who created the language, the people who created the tarot cards, the people who created the symbolism behind this, the people who created these meanings and reasonings, the devil, you know, angels, they're all the same kind of group of people. They're all going by the same kind of system, right? Otherwise, why would they have the correlation and the relatability between each practice, between each thing? So if you're Christian, Muslim, whatever background you might be from, and you think that tarot cards are the devil or like demonic, I'm here to tell you the same people who talked about the demons and the devils and the angels are the same people who did the tarot cards. They're talking about the same concept because they're from the same background. They're just talking about it in their own individual subjective way into the objective, all right? Which is why there's so many different ways to connect, you know, just like how I was breaking down with all the symbolism and why they connect. We even all the way down to the Noah's Ark allegory that I made. You know, these relate because they're talking about the same thing. They're based on the same concept. They're in the same foundation, you know, back to that foundational energies, all right? So when we're talking about this card here, we have the X and the V, all right? X is talking about when you cross something out, when you either X something out because you no longer want to associate with it, or you mark the spot because it's something that you want to pay attention to, all right? Back to that pay attention energy. You see how everything ties in? This is real freaking reading, bitch. This is real tarot, motherfucker. Anyways, I got a little bit excited. So yeah, this is real freaking readings, all right, mate? This is how you learn the real reading. I'm not saying that you are not reading it true, but I'm just giving you the meaning and reasoning to why you read the way that you do now. Now you know what I mean? Now that you know what you're doing, you can do things like a lot more like you're like a lot more correlated, you're a lot more ordered, you're like, oh, I already know I can tackle this card like boom, boom, bam, like I already know the background, the backing. Okay, why does this card even mean this way? Why the frick did they even come up with this meaning? Where did the concept come from? All right, what kind of mind state they were even in? Like all this kind of shit. That's how you can even learn. All right. If you want to learn more about the stuff, I highly recommend watch Dollar to Parliament on YouTube. Taught me everything that I know about all this stuff. So, and it all reminded me actually, because that's actually the truth. I'm only here to remind you what he reminded me. He reminded me what I already know, and I'm here to remind you what you already know. The meaning and reasonings that you already know behind your shit. All right. So get with it, get on to it, all right? And when we talk about this, we have the X, right? X marks the spot, either what you're paying attention to or what you're crossing out. You're crossing it out. You're like, no, I don't want this anymore. X. And then we have, oh no, we're not coming on to this. And then we have V, all right. What does V represent? Okay, what do you think of V? You think of the vessel, Venus, those kind of energies, feminine nature, V, vessel, holding on to something, all right? Bringing something down into density, because what is the shape like? It's like that. It's also related, if you know about alchemy, V, or the downward triangle, it represents the earth element, right? Which is just a way of talking about the vessel, all right? Earth is a vessel. We are in vessels on earth, okay? So all of these energies are correlated, and they come down to the meaning and reasoning of why they even wrote down these symbols, you know, the kind of aspects that they were in, the kind of mindset that they were in, all right? So when you talk about X and V together, you're either paying attention to something to give birth to it, like what was I just saying, guys? What was I just saying? Okay, I'm telling you, I'm spitting motherfucking facts. Okay, so when I was talking before, I was talking about how the 15 is an individual idea, and then you're feeling a certain way about it. You've got a vision, imagination, and expression about it internally. And then you bring it together, and that what does that create? Six, whatever you're paying attention to, all right? And then what were we talking about? X marks the spot. And then we were talking about the V. The V is either bringing something down into density, giving birth to it. This is why vagina starts with V, so on and so forth. But let's not get too deep into that. And this is also like the earth element, making sense out of something, all right, or bringing it down into density, giving birth to something, right? All of these kind of energies. So when you pay attention to something, you give birth to it. Was I not just saying that before? Was I not just saying it, love? And no, freaking, I did not plan this video, all right? Like, it's freaking crazy. And I feel like now people are going to think that I planned this video just because I said that, but whatever, I don't care. I just wanted to put that out there, just as a clarity. So when it comes to as well the other side of it, when you're Xing out something, you're crossing it out, you're able to cross out a vessel, you're able to cross out something that you gave birth to, you're able to cross out a vision, you're able to cross out like back to that V energy. All of that shit is correlated, all right? So when you're crossing out a vessel, this is like you Xing out or giving boundaries to something. All right, what did I just say before? Devil is about boundaries and restrictions, all right, love? So now you know why. Now you know the meaning of readings of why it means boundaries and restrictions, or why it's talking about these energies, all right? And also back to this card, we tie in this energy as well. The 5, all right? So you feel a certain way about something, you feel a certain aspect about something, but when it's talking about wands, it's talking about fire, all right? And what is fire? Fire is something that transforms shit. You burn shit, it's going to transform, all right? And what's feeling? Feeling is more related to water, okay? So what happens when you apply fire to water? Does it not evaporate? And does it not do something that water not doesn't typically do, right? So does it not go against the grain? 5 of wands. Okay. You know what I mean? So this is how we can correlate and look at the synchronicities within the cards, okay? So when you're talking about 5 of wands, you take the 5 energy, the way you feel about something, your reaction, your emotional feeling, your emotional stance about something, and then wands, fire, evaporating, transforming that thing, having or maybe having a certain vision about it. You might feel about going for something, now you have a vision, you're going to go towards that, but that feeling might not always go with what the grain is. That feeling might sometimes take you in the opposite direction. It might take you to where you really feel like you should go, but maybe it might not be the best place for you to go, or maybe it might be. And this is why it's also talking about conflicts and disagreements sometimes as well, this card can talk about. So all of these energies, all of these stuff are interrelated, loves. As you can see, I break it down plain and nice for you to see. And if you can't see it, then that's all right. You can just be it, right? But unconsciously, because at the end of the day, I'm just here to remind you what you already know and how you naturally correlate and go about your life on the day and do. So the more you know, now you're able to do things a lot more sufficiently. You're able to be like, well, bam, well, bam, well, cham, well, sham, well, ham, well, ham. And you can utilize these more in your life. You're able to see, okay, when you're being led into your desire, when you're being led into a higher aspect of yourself, when you're cutting off a cycle, and when you're able to give birth to a new cycle, and what kind of energies you might need to correlate these things, all the way down to the astrology, because I broke a little bit down of astrology. Now you're able to say, oh, well, when it's Capricorn season, this might be something, a time when I might need to separate from something, or put more boundaries and restrictions, or stand firm about something, right? So all of these energies are correlated love. So once you see, now you be, and you're able to be free and act in the way of you want to be accordingly. Sometimes the words just come out a little bit muddled, but you get the concept, you get the idea, you get what I'm trying to push, what I'm trying to express. And sometimes it just takes for you to just really sit there and ponder on a certain concept for you to actually get the ideas and get the juices flowing, all right? But as well, it's a lot of people are lost into seeing things from a mundane perspective, not seeing things for the symbolism and the meaning and the reasoning behind things. So then it leads you to like just think that everything's mundane, everything just doesn't have a meaning or a reasoning. But really it does. But it's just about how you look at it. It's about like how you do something. It's not about what you're doing, because we can be both looking at the same exact concept. We can be both looking at a tree, right? The way I look at the tree, I interpret a whole meaning and reasoning, a whole story, a whole character that this tree has. Why did the tree even grow that way? What aspect or energy did the tree move in? Now, what energy might the land even be correlated to based on how that tree is growing, how that tree looks, you know what I mean? And so on and so forth. These are all like ways that you can interpret the energy, the aura, the aspects, the atmosphere around you. And why would the atmosphere formulate that tree in order to grow that way? All right. So this is like, everyone can look at the same tree and be seeing something completely different, be experiencing a completely different world. So this is why it's always subjective than objective, all right? Always look at it from that basis, love, because then you won't be able to, or won't be getting so lost into things all the time. No, I can't guarantee you that, because it's a battle. It's a daily battle, especially with the shadow government, the way that they set things up. No hate, respect everybody's culture, but the way that they set the things up is kind of for you to fail. Not kind of, actually, it definitely is. They try to pull your demon out. They try to pull your devil out. They try to pull your desire out so that you're within that, and that controls you. They want you to be walking around like a little demon child. Like that's literally like the vibes they want, because they think that in a way that they're helping you, because they're just like showing you who you really are. They're just pulling up the mirror, but really no, that's who they really are. Because in order for them to be in that mindset, that must be the concept that they're stuck in, they're lost in order for them to constantly see that in people. Because you know what, all my life I've always seen the good in others. So to me, that is more of a testament of who I am on the inside. I always saw the better aspect, the higher, more angelic natures of others. So that kind of shows you what kind of aspect I'm in. And that's not to say that I'm getting up on my angelic high horse and sit here and think, oh, well, just because I was more in my animalistic, my angelic natures, that I don't have any demonic aspects. No, bitch. Like, I got lost into my desires at some point too. Like, maybe not as much as certain others, maybe not as deep as others would have, but there's been certain times when I had got lost, and I had to find my way. But like some people say, sometimes you have to get lost in order to find yourself, right? Sometimes you have to go out and search in order to find who you really are. So this is why life is the way it is sometimes. Like things that there's a natural order to things is what this video is basically portraying. There's a certain natural order to things, and you can either choose to go with the natural order, or you can choose to go against the natural order. And some people think that their natural order is more devil based. Some people think that their natural order is more angel based. Some people know the truth, and that the natural order can have any manner of things within it. It doesn't have to be an angel or a demon. It doesn't have to be it can be either a combination of both or neither. And this is about like knowing the true meaning and reasoning behind shit. Not like just because someone told you that this means this and someone told you that this means that, now you're just gonna be. I don't know if you guys can hear, but there's a freaking plane flying above me right now. It's quite loud. So I just want to wait until the plane fully flies over, and then I can continue talking about what I was talking about. So, it's not about getting lost into these concepts just because someone told you that this means this and that means that. No, you find out the meaning and reasoning of why Why it means that? Because it's always subjective and then objective. If I'm sitting there and interpreting, even someone else may look at the same tree as me. They might be a reader, like, or know certain similar concepts to me. They're still going to have their own subjective opinion based on what that tree is emanating, right? And how that tree grows. Same with reading character. You're always going to have your own opinion, your own subjective point of view based on how another person is. And this is either based on how you are as a character or how you are not as a character. Because whatever you're aware of, you're able to be aware of the opposite as well. Like if you're a kind person, you're obviously able to see how people are unkind and so on and so forth. If you have no sense of kindness, kind or unkind, what makes you think that you're going to be aware of someone being kind or unkind? You don't know what that is. You know what I mean? So this is like a child that grows up being sheltered from certain concepts or certain states of being, or not being exposed to a certain way of how they could be in life. And then others are like, oh, well, they were raised in so and so way, so they don't really know how to be when it comes to that kind of concept. They don't really know how to express kindness or love. Those kind of concepts. This is where these come from. You can't fully be aware of something unless you have an aspect of that within your mentality, within your mind. So if you what's it called? If you're exposed to something and you're aware of it, and now it's within your mind, so this is how you're able to build on that. You're able to construct that a little bit more into a more better way of going about it, as opposed to just kind of being chaotic, not having that energy at all. And then you're still naturally expressing a form of yourself regardless. So if anything, there's a benefit and a downfall to that as well. So it's not to say that that's bad that you don't know about that concept. Some concepts we need to not know. Some concepts we really need to go to sleep on and stop thinking about at a complete level. Some of them just don't really help or benefit anybody. It just leads people to thinking negatively about the world, leads people into damnation states of being. So, it's just about knowing what concepts are actually beneficial to you and what concepts really are just they're just irrelevant, honestly. And the best way I feel like to go about that is to look at things in a reality-based concept, or what makes sense to reality. If you don't see it in a day-to-day reality, then it's either it doesn't make sense, it has no basis in reality, or you're looking at it from the wrong aspect. You're looking at it from either too literal or not literal enough, or you're looking at it from either too biased, or you're not bringing in the bias enough. You're not bringing in that bias energy to balance out your unbiasedness. Because we live in a world where people are biased still. So it's not about not having an opinion or not having a sentiment about something. It's just about knowing when you're getting lost into those things, and when you should hop out, love. You should just hop out and just see things from the outside looking in. And that will benefit you in the long run, because now you won't be stuck into shit. You won't be fixated. You won't be lost into that Taurus energy, okay? And I'm a Taurus here telling you this, okay? This is the concept that you need to get. You need to get out of these fucking mind states, mate. Get out of these concepts because they're fucking you up. And I think on that note, I'll probably end this video. I'll see you guys for the next video. I hope you guys enjoy your day time, wherever you are. And if you don't, then, maybe you should reevaluate and do some self-reflecting, love. Don't know where that came from, but I mean, I wouldn't be against it, If that was me looking at another person and seeing that video and I related to that, what I just said, and then they said, maybe you should reevaluate. I mean, I wouldn't disagree. So, why would I be mad that I just said that? Why would I edit that out? Why would I crop anything out of my videos? Because this shit is gold at the end of the day. But that's just me trying to also manifest too. I'm not trying to have no ego, remember? I'm not trying to get lost into a lie or a desire or an ego. But, I just wanted to give credit where credit is due, because gold is gold. I'm not gold. I ain't shit at the end of the day. I'm no thing. I'm just a space. I'm just a spirit. A spirit. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy. Laters. Peace. Yabba dabba.